What's up, Cougar Nation, and welcome again aboard the Hype Train podcast. I'm your host, Joe Wheat. That's at Joe Wheat27 on Twitter. As always, with my boy, Trevor Levitt. We got a one-on-one show for you today. And I just want to ask you, Trevor, how much sleep are you getting over the last couple days?
You know what? I feel like I've actually been sleeping pretty good, but it's to escape the
Well, that makes
sheer
one of us.
nerves. I'm escaping the sheer nerves that I've been experiencing in every waking hour of the day.
Dude, this isn't good for my health, man. Like, I'm a wreck the entire week. I'm a wreck for 4 hours on Saturday watching the actual game. And then I'm happy for about 20 minutes once the game actually ends. And then it's right back to just feeling constant stress and anxiety over what's going to happen in the season. I'm 30, guys.
God has a sick sense of humor that we got a double overtime rain delay football game. And after that, we have to sit for a week and think about the potential outcome of this BYU Utah game. All this time, just all this pressure placed on all of our hearts all the time. And he took the heart surgeon away just a couple weeks earlier.
It's the thing about BYU is like stylistically, and we'll talk about this a bunch, I'm sure. They're just not built to blow teams out. And like I think that's all fans want. Like fans want the olden days where BYU was winning 50-10 or something like that, which by the way wasn't really the case. Like BYU still won a lot of close games in the 80s and 90s. It was just that they were winning those games 48-40 rather like, and now we're winning them 30-27 or whatever the final score is. Like stylistically things have changed. The cardiac Cougs thing has always been a thing, but it's really frustrating that my team is better at winning than almost anybody in the country, but the way they do it is just the slowest, most painful brand of death. Where it's like I wrote it in the article, like every week is going to give me a heart attack, but at least it's a heart attack and a win.
It genuinely, like, BYU is what, 17-2 over their last 19 games, but each one gives you a stroke.
Would you rather be BYU or Utah? And what I mean by that is Utah is definitely built to blow teams out, but they also get blown out sometimes because of their style of play. So, like, would you rather be a team that blows teams out a bunch, but also like gets boat raced twice a year? Or would you rather be a team like BYU that's in every single game that they're in and it's within 14 points, win or lose?
Yeah, I mean, I think always feeling like you have a chance is big. And I think it's it's harmful this week as we play Utah because obviously we would love to boat race Utah, but the likelihood of that given, the way that this offense and the defense, plays with each other is low. But in a couple of weeks, we're playing Texas Tech, and I love the potential idea that we could be in that game, given that Texas Tech is as good as they are. So it's got its upsides and its downsides, but unfortunately, this week is one of the downsides.
It's been a really painful reality realizing that I root for Georgia Tech. Like Georgia Tech, there was some crazy. I can't remember their coach's name, but there was some crazy stat that he's like 9-1 against ranked opponents. But you go up and down their list, and it's like they're beating all of these ranked opponents by like 7 points. And even in the loss, they went into like 7 overtimes against Georgia last year. But then they also just beat a bad Virginia Tech team by like 14 points. So it's like they're exactly the same as BYU, where like they're built to keep the game within 14. They'll never get down by more than 14. They'll never get up by more than 14. And that's just where you're going to live. Even though like the statistics show, yeah, BYU is actually being really, really efficient. And like in terms of yards, in terms of success rate, like they're playing in available yards. They're playing in a way that this game is a blowout, but the final score doesn't show it. Like that's incredibly frustrating for me going into the office on Monday, trying to explain to people that the scoreboard doesn't tell the entire story. And all Utah fans want to say is, we beat West Virginia by 30, you beat them by 14, we're going to kill you. And then in the next breath, they're telling me, but that Texas Tech game was a lot closer than the scoreboard showed.
I I think I think what made the Arizona game so I wouldn't even call it frustrating, but one thing that I keep going back to in that game, and it's a hypothetical at this point, and maybe it doesn't matter, but BYU started that game off like a team that could have blown out Arizona, and then they got hit with an hour and 15-minute rain delay. And like for me, that's something that I like. There was so much momentum, and I was thinking about it on my drive to work today. It is so much more beneficial. Like you look at even last year, like Arizona State and SUU had a rain delay last year where Arizona State was just in full control the entire time prior to the rain delay. And then things got really weird afterwards. And it just kind of, I was just kind of thinking about it. You have a team that has all the momentum, uh, all the confidence in the world. It's a lot harder to maintain that coming out of a huge break than it is to sit down in the locker room and go, guys, we're down 14. This is terrible. What do we do to adjust? Like, I just, I guess I wasn't surprised by the response from Arizona. They had every reason and every like need. One of I think it's like Andy Shear or whatever his name is, like one of the
Jason
Arizona,
Shear.
yeah, Jason Shear. After BYU had gone up on that Parker Kingston touchdown pass, he had literally tweeted, he's like, "Man, if anyone needs a rain delay right now, it's Arizona," and they got it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, man, if the weather had been its normal temp at that point, like what does that score look like? It doesn't matter. BYU still won, but it was something that gave me some thought this morning.
It's just there's been nothing normal about the season so far. Like the season starts with a three-way quarterback competition because your quarterback gets kicked out of school virtually. Then you win 69 nothing against one of the worst teams any of us have ever seen. Then you go to Stanford, and it's like, okay, this is Bear Bachmeier's first real opportunity. BYU dominates that game, but again, the final score, like they go 1 for 5 in the red zone or something crazy like that. Just doesn't feel good. ECU was weird because it's like parents' weekend and a night game, and it's the first time they've had fireworks, and it's just you're going across the country to play a G5 team. You dominate that game. Then you go play Colorado on the road where they've had that game circled for months. They get out to this super hot start and then just kind of fall apart the rest of the way. West Virginia, again, you dominate that game, but just weird turnovers make that game closer. And then Arizona, you're dominating them too. And then there's a rain delay that kind of like throws a wrench in everything. Like the attitude in BYU's locker room after like during that rain delay was we're gonna smoke them. And like I get it. Like that's kind of what I was feeling too. Like it sucked to lose that momentum, but everything just felt weird after like coming out of that rain delay. Like people are going to point to that fake punt, and I think that's a worthy thing to point to. It's just like when you're the better team, we don't need all this. We don't necessarily need all this goofy stuff, right? Like you're coming out of a rain delay. If you don't get this, Arizona's got all the momentum and they have a chance to go down and tie the game. And maybe that's why they wouldn't expect it. And BYU's actually been really successful on fake punts over the last few years. But like the risk there just felt so high. Like let yourself get back into the flow of the game before we hand the football to Arizona on a short field. And then I don't know. They get the fake punt. They go on like a 8 or 9 minute drive in at to begin the third quarter that really zapped any additional energy that BYU had. Like there was, I think Bear Bachmeier threw 2 passes in like 20 minutes of game time. Like
Yeah, that's insane.
and there's a weather delay too. So it's like I don't know how you expect your true freshman quarterback to get into any kind of rhythm, when he's just sitting on the sideline for X number of downs. They're running the ball like 50 times. Like, it's not surprising that that game got weird given the circumstances.
Yeah, it's raining, like just all sorts of just weird stuff. I will say to the positive thing about all this is the fact that ultimately, as weird as it got, it didn't matter. Like it wasn't enough to beat this BYU team. It got real close there, but you mentioned, Bears kind of out of the game between the rain delay and the long drives and all these different things. He's at his best when he's really involved, and I think A-Rod knows that, which is why towards the end of the game it was a lot of QB blast, like runs off the guard, like, all these different kind of QB power plays to just kind of, I don't know. It's like in basketball, like you're not always necessarily shooting every shot, but the ball is going through a certain player and they're involved and included, and then the shots start to fall. And for me, that was watching Bear. Like the passes started to look a little bit crisper, like the confidence and kind of his like youthful energy started to come back as soon as he just starts, kind of hitting people and falling forward and gaining yards. And he, like in other games previously, like took over at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I'd like to see more of LJ Martin. Like he was averaging 6.5 yards a carry to finish the game. I'd like to see a little bit more of him.
Are
Uh,
we are we sure he wasn't hurt?
I know he was a little banged up early, but if I guess
Like he had an entire drive in the fourth quarter where it was the Preston Rec show. Like LJ didn't even see the field, and we were worried earlier in the game that he was out.
I guess if he's hurt, why would he be in? Like that's and
Well,
I know that's
you need him. Like it's I think it's more give the ball to the guy. Like it's not like LJ stopped carrying the football. Like if you go back and watch like every single play, Bear was the guy inside the 10-yard line, and we all wanted it to be LJ. But I also understand that a little bit when, I mean, you got a battering ram in Bear Bachmeyer, dude. Like he's Cam Scattaboo, but intelligent, where like the guy just seeks contact. And I don't necessarily love that trait in a quarterback, but I also like adore that trait in Bear Bachmeyer. Um, so like it's, again, all of the, I sent it in the group chat like 8 times once BYU got inside the 10. It's like, okay, 4 carries for LJ here. Let's go. And it was 4 carries to Bear. And they scored. Like they still scored. So it's not like, what do I know? But I don't know. I'm not completely sold that LJ wasn't injured, and he had carried the ball already 26 times. So I'm pretty sure he was either gassed or wasn't 100%, and Bear was your best option there, and LJ just needed to be a decoy.
which on the final touchdown of the game, they ran a beautiful misdirection where they had 3 guys to the left, and then they sent LJ on what looked like a bubble screen, and the linebacker that was supposed to cover the gap that Bear ended up taking followed LJ out, and then they just ran off, inside the tackle. And Bear showed a little bit of athleticism there. He had like a little, I don't know if I'd call it a hurdle, but it was like a little bit of a high step over and then dove into the end zone. But just, we've talked about it. I've talked about it every week. Bear Bachmeyer every single week has just like 1 or 2 things that he adds to his repertoire that he does just a little bit better than he did the week before. And I think for me, it was just the leadership, just understanding like things got weird a little bit early with Colorado, but it wasn't weird deep into the game like it was against Arizona. And just the mental fortitude and the toughness and his ability to hang in there. He had a great throw to Parker Kingston to convert that 4th and 7. Just things like that are just so valuable for this game that's coming up that we'll obviously talk about later, and gives me a lot of confidence moving forward, not only for this week, but for the rest of the season when we're moving into these huge games that Bear's going to be ready to answer the bell.
100%. Like, I don't think like Bear didn't have his best stuff in the passing game, but after going and like rewatching every single one of his throws, I didn't think any of them were like he didn't make any bad. There was one bad decision, like the decision, the fumbled snap. He compounded a mistake with a mistake, and threw the ball to a guy who was open, but clearly Bear did not like. He clearly underestimated the athleticism of that Arizona safety. Which that was another takeaway I had. Arizona's secondary is awesome. Um, but like that first interception he had no bearing on the game. It was a great play by a defender, and honestly, I like the read because you got a defender with his back turned in man coverage, and he just happened to turn around right as the ball fell into his lap. Like, okay, great play. But other than that, like I thought Bear made good decisions. He was accurate. Like the windows just closed really quickly on him, and it just kind of felt like he was a step slow. But even when he doesn't have his fastball, he's still effective. Um, Over the last 4 games, he's averaging 300 yards of total offense per game. Like if you, it's hard with the quarterback because like running is kind of discounted when you're a quarterback. But like if you would have told me that Bear Bachmeier had 300 yards passing a game, everyone would feel great about it. The impact is the same. Like he's still generating 300 yards a game over his last 4 games. He had 261 against Arizona against the top 15 defense. Like I like it. 3 touchdowns in that game. Like this year he's 15 total touchdowns, 3 picks. Like if those were his numbers where he was on pace for 1,500 total yards and like 1,500 passing yards so far and 15 touchdowns, we'd all be like, oh my gosh, this kid's the truth. And we are saying he's the truth. But moral of the story, like I really felt like he played really good for again, for a true freshman in that kind of situation, down 10 in the fourth quarter. He didn't freak out. He made a lot of really nice throws in crunch time when you needed it. He made a great throw on 3rd and 7 to Chase Roberts that was dropped. And rather than get down on him and his teammates, he follows that up with another dot across the field to Parker Kingston. He just made like that throw that was incomplete in the first overtime should have been a touchdown. That should have been caught. So really, really like what I saw from the quarterback. And again, that has to give you confidence going into weeks like this, where even when he doesn't have his fastball, there's still something that he can do to impact the game. And I think in other years that hasn't necessarily been the case.
I agree. And I think something that's helped him out as well is the emergence of at least for right now, we'll see if if Jojo comes back, he can have something to say about it, but a very clear wide receiver too.
Dude,
In
how about that? How
and
far
Parker Kingston. Like
Parker was the secret MVP of that game, man. Like, but really, that's what's crazy about this BYU team, man. There's not one player that you can point to and say, yeah, that's the reason we won the game. I could point to 8 different players, probably more, that did something down the stretch in that game that won the game for BYU.
1,000%. But when you look at like things that are going to give Bear confidence moving forward, like he has Chase Roberts. He's had Chase Roberts all season. But now, you want to talk about a fastball. Chase Roberts with his like route running is almost the curveball, and now Parker Kingston's the 4-seamer, which is so awesome because you have this guy that track speed does not always translate to football. I know that we see guys like Tyreek Hill and Parker Kingston's obviously, making a name for himself now. And, you had other burners in the NFL that, made their name for being quick. But at the same time, you had guys like Tavon Austin, who was great in college, but didn't really translate to the NFL. John Ross went 4.21. He didn't really translate. Like the fact that it's all kind of coming together for Parker is awesome. And it's just it takes so much pressure off of Chase Roberts. Like he had a drop. He definitely had a drop in that towards the end of that game that was shocking, I think, even to him, obviously, but he was open. Like he was wide open. And it's the play of Parker Kingston. It's the emergence of Carson Ryan throughout the season that make your good players great, and your great players elite. And that's what Chase is going to benefit from these next couple of weeks. Is all of a sudden defensive coordinators, DB rooms are looking and they're going, okay, number 2 is the truth, but hey, there's this guy behind him that's had 100 yards receiving and a touchdown in the last 2 games, and no one can seem to touch him. And so the fact that it's all seemed to be coming together all at once it's a big deal.
So let's talk about the end of like how things went at the end of the game. Were you also pulling your hair out when BYU gets the ball down 10 with 11 minutes to go and goes on a 7-minute drive that ends in a field goal?
I don't think I started to freak out until about 5 minutes into
I
that
agree.
7-minute drive.
I agree. Like you're sitting there and it's like been a 4-minute drive. They're on like the 40, whatever. You're like, okay, like this is fine, but like let's get it moving. Let's see some and like what was so funny is like listening to the announcers go from you don't have to go fast here at the beginning of the drive to okay, where's the urgency at the end of the drive? It was bizarre to watch in real time. I think most BYU fans look, there's not a more you guys all hate me because I love Aaron Roderick so much. And that's a shame because I don't think Aaron Roderick likes me very much. But I will go to bat for him because he's good at what he does. What he does may not be the most aesthetically pleasing to a lot of people, but this is just who BYU is. These long, sustained, methodical drives, it's all part of the plan. It's a feature of the offense, not a bug. The gamble that BYU made at the end of that game was we think all we need to send this game to overtime is 2 possessions. We can score on our next 2 possessions, but we're not sure that the defense, who's been on the field for 2 entire quarters at this point, we're not sure that they can stop Arizona for 2 possessions. So we need to run these next 2 drives in a way that only gives Arizona one more chance to touch the football. Like, and from a winning perspective, that makes sense. Like, if you need 2 scores if you're down by 2 scores, it only makes sense to try and give your opponent less opportunities to score, right? And so that's the rationale behind it. It's a gamble. We as fans assume failure, and so we want there to be a little bit of margin for error, but this coaching staff clearly has a lot more faith in the team than we do, because they said, look, we're down by 10. We've played a really silly, sloppy football game for the last 2 quarters. We're going to tighten it up, and we're just going to do it. And they did it, and they keep doing it. And they've been doing it for 2 years now in the same exact way. And at a certain point, you just got to tip your hat and say, look, this is all a part of the plan. This is sustainable. This is what this program does.
Well, and I think the wisdom in it as well. I was thinking about this on Sunday after, the emotions of the game had kind of died down. Not only do you give Arizona one more possession, but you also, though you're the losing team at the time, you're also dictating how they run their offense. Because if you hand them the ball with however much time left there was, it was like 4 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever the case may be, you can safely assume at that point that they're going into clock management mode where they're trying to run the clock out as best as they can. But but then they have to move away from what makes that Arizona offense good, which is Noah Fafita. So not only do you take a ton of time off the clock, but then you also, in a way, take the ball out of Noah Fafita's hands, and you rely on your defense to stop the run, which is something that they've done all year. And so in a way, it's almost kind of this 4D chess move of, okay, yes, we're still behind, but we know like they've tipped all their pitches because every football team ever at this point in the game looks at the analytics and the analytics say run the football 3 straight times and then punt if you have to. And they use that to their advantage. And all of a sudden you get the ball back with uh it was like 3 timeouts and the 2 minute warning.
They had 2 timeouts left, the 2 minute warning. They got the ball with 3 minutes to go on their 45-yard line. Like they almost got too much time.
Yeah, it was ran to perfection. And we've obviously talked about Jay Hill and this defense a ton. There's not many defenses in the country, Arizona's included, with even as good as their secondary is. There's not a defense in the country that you can trust with that kind of task. Like there's maybe 4, and BYU just happens to be one of them. I mean, it's a testament to how much trust that team has in each other, but also just how good that defense is.
I felt like this was the worst defensive performance of the season, which should probably be unsurprising to just about everybody because Jack Kelly was out, Keanu Tanavasa was out for second quarter on. Siale Acera was a little bit banged up. Isaiah Glasker was a little bit banged up. Raider DeMooney went out. Like there were so many pieces that were rattled in that I'm not surprised that the defense looked a little bit shaky. But man, they clutched up when they needed to, right? Like the one aspect of the defense that I felt was most concerning was the pressure. What my eyes told me was that BYU wasn't getting it enough, like not getting a sack on this Arizona team who leads the Big 12 in sacks allowed. Was kind of disappointing. But then I went back and looked at the pressure rate, and BYU got pressure on 40% of dropbacks. So like they must have been doing something right. But I felt like most importantly, late in the game, in the fourth quarter, guys like Tausili Akana stepped up. Tausili Akana had 3 pressures at the end of that game, including a QB hit that forced an interception. Siale Acera was just an absolute dog in that spy Jack Kelly role. This game just showed me that recruiting matters because when you're down your senior leaders in Keanu and Jack Kelly, it was a pair of 4-star sophomores that stepped up and had 26 combined tackles in Siale Acera and Falatau Satuala. Like that just goes to show like you got to recruit talented guys. This like the talent that was on that 2021 team, that 2022 team, they don't win this game because once those top line guys go out, there just isn't the depth to compete after that. BYU has that depth now, and it showed against a solid Arizona offense. You still held them to, under 30 points with double overtime included in there. Like defense, I felt like didn't have his fastball, but still played well enough to win clearly.
Yeah. And it's just valuable experience. Like one of the, I would assume, I mean, we obviously will get like the injury report and everything, but I would imagine based off of how the coaches talked about Jack Kelly, and obviously like Tanavasa is just back naturally with the rules of targeting. Like when you bring those guys back, you're just all the better for it because the guys behind them performed, and maybe the top guys get a little bit extra rest. Maybe they get an extra rep or 2 off because the guys behind them are going to take care of business, which then later in a game, especially one as heated as this rivalry is going to be, like when you just need that extra juice, it's going to be there. We've seen in the past, like depth, the most energy, like the most like enthusiasm, like that's the stuff that wins these rivalry games. And when you just have more dudes that you can just kind of throw at the opposing team that can do damage, like eventually the war of attrition, you win that just by having more gas at the end.
Which is true except for cornerback, right? Like I don't think I need to see BYU's threes in the cornerback room ever again. Both passing touchdowns from Fafita were on third string corners. And honestly, like Fafita looked really good in that second quarter. Once BYU made the adjustments to go to Evan Johnson at the nickel, Maury Bamba, and Trey Alexander on the outside, the secondary cooked in this game. Like Fafita, 200 yards and under 60% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like I'll take that.
Well, and it looks like, I mean, he was dressed, and it looks like maybe a last minute decision kept him out, but you potentially get Kabea back this week as well. So
yeah, the Kabea thing, it's going to take some time, everyone. Like we want Kabea to be back, but we also have to understand he just got cleared to practice again. He had a sports hernia in his groin. So he hasn't really been able to run in like 2 months. So it's going to take him a second to get back. Hopefully we see him a little bit against Utah, but again, just important to manage expectations there.
nah, he's gonna be great.
That's what we like to hear. All right, we've kind of dissected the X's and O's of it. Let's go with just the pure vibes of it. How did you celebrate?
Well, the kids were asleep at the time, so it wasn't necessarily muted. They have their little noisemakers in their room, but I fell to my knees and just exhaled. I think that was like, I don't know if it was so much celebrating as it was like just this huge weight just off my chest. My Taylor got into it a lot, which for her being as pregnant as she is was a Herculean effort on her end. And it was fun. We ended up, because of the rain delay, we typically watch it with my family all at my parents' house, but because of the rain delay, we decided to get the kids home and to sleep, and so we just got to watch it, the two of us together, and called my family after, and we all cheered on the phone. But it's just one of those wins where you're just so proud of those boys.
They just don't stop fighting, man.
No. I think just, and you don't have to be a former athlete of BYU to have this perspective by any means, but like I think it's moments like those where it's just so clear how hard they've worked and how much they've cared about each other. And like, it just kind of sends me back to times where I've felt that, just like the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put in, and to see it pay off, even though everything looks super bleak. Like, it's just those moments that kind of just connect you. And I was just so proud of them. And Hunter's not here, so we can talk about the cut, obviously, but like the hugs that Kalani and Jay Hill and A-Rod were giving all the players and everything, you just tell that this is a family, and that makes it even cooler, is that they all the family wins together.
They just approach the game in such a different way than I do. Like the more I write and am online and am in podcasting, unfortunately, the childlike love that I have of BYU football just isn't the same as it used to be, because not only am I wanting them to win, I want them to win the chart on Monday mornings. And that's my own fault. But all these guys care about is winning. Like, this coaching staff does not care how many points they win by. They just want to win, and they are darn good at winning. I am ashamed to say I was watching the game with Chandler at his house. Once Chase Roberts dropped that pass on third down, I left. Like I decided, and I even stayed for it. I put on my shoes. I stayed for an extra play. I saw Parker Kingston convert the fourth down. But it was at that moment that I realized I do not have the emotional control to be in public right now. And so I got in my car, I drove home, and I watched the game in a room with 4 padded walls in total silence. And when Evan Johnson just put the clamps on that Arizona receiver at the end, I didn't let out a single sound. I just stared, because my wife was asleep upstairs. I just stared at the ceiling, raised my hands, and breathed. just like you did. Like
You,
I
you're like the manager in Moneyball. Like
yes,
there's no
yes.
reaction. You're just
Dude,
like,
I
sweet.
didn't even I couldn't even watch the Will Ferrell kick. Like I went outside and waited for the group chat to tell me if he made it. Like that's where we were at.
Dude, speaking of, okay, if we want to talk about that. That was, you want to talk about like
Will still got it.
a hard yes, you want to talk about a hard watch though. That that might have been the, like, forget the 4th and 7, forget the fourth down with the lob to the end zone from Fafita. The hardest thing to watch was that kid walking out there. He's been just so good. Like last year, just darn near untouchable. And to start this year, darn near untouchable. And then he just kind of has this weird rocky moment, and he misses the first one, and we're all kind of like, all right, like that's a little weird, but it was going to happen eventually. And then he misses the next one. We're like, okay, that's a
Uh-uh.
little that's a little more concerning. And then he missed the one in this game, and we're like, great, he's broken. And and then all of a sudden it's this clutch moment, and it's like, okay, how broken is Will Ferrell? And and that ball goes straight through the uprights, and turns
It
out that
wasn't even close.
big game Bill is still in there.
He's
And
still there.
what a dude, that to me might have been my Shawshank moment. Like, just,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we're all right. Like,
And
if it needs to go in, it'll go in.
here's the thing with this. It was funny after the game seeing the reaction from Arizona fans, not just about the refereeing, which good grief, guys. Good grief. Learn the rules. But seeing the reaction of, like, they were sitting in the stands thinking, we hoped that this time would be different, and we knew it wouldn't be. Like, deep down. Like, they're up 10 in the fourth quarter. They thought, oh my gosh, we're going to pull off a ranked win. But deep down, they knew they wouldn't. That's how I used to feel. Like, do you remember in like 2018, that stupid Utah game, you go up big, and at halftime, I just knew we were going to lose.
Yeah, there was too much time.
Like the Oklahoma State game in 23 to go to a bowl game, BYU's up by 20 at half, and I just knew BYU was going to lose that game. It's the opposite now. Like, maybe it's different for everybody. They have earned my trust, where BYU goes down by 10, like that 4th and 1, like BYU's down by 3 the entire second and third quarter. And I'm thinking, like, we're still going to win. Like, this is just, it's annoying. Like, I know we're going to win. And so the fact that we're struggling this much is just annoying because I already know the outcome. And then they score on that 4th and 1 to go up 10. And I'm like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. But, but deep down in my heart, I still knew that they were going to find a, like, it was just like, not this week. They might lose at some point, not this week. And that's just kind of been my attitude for the last forever. It's just like when BYU lost to Kansas last year, the shocked silence in that stadium was deafening, because that was we weren't supposed, like, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
We've seen BYU do this before. That's not supposed to go that way. And it just felt so out of the ordinary because BYU's come through in those moments so many times. They've just earned my trust to feel that way. So, like, the moment they do finally lose a close one, which they probably will, just not this week.
Yeah, it's they've turned me into Ted Lasso. I've got a family member that I text back and forth quite often when games are on, and by no means are they negative. I think, to their credit, actually, they're a lot more realist than I am in regards to, like, some of the outcomes with BYU. But I've found myself over the last couple of seasons, when something goes wrong, they'll send a text and be like, oh crap, like we might be in trouble. And I just find myself just sending it's so corny, but it's like believe. Like you just have to believe like it's going to be all right. Believe, like trust it. It's going to happen. Like whatever, and it has. And I
It's just,
and and I think previously I would do it almost ironically, but now it's like it's happened enough and they've given me enough evidence to be like, no, wait. Like it's literally it's the Woody meme. It's the let them cook.
yeah.
And they start cooking. Mind you, it took them like almost 55 minutes of football game time this week.
They lean forward in the chair.
Yeah. About time. They were leaned a little too far back and the
But
the
it's
it broke. The chair broke and they had to fix it and then they came for it.
but again, like I knew the outcome, which just makes it all the more annoying that they just still try and kill me. It's wild. But like I said, they're going to lose a close game at some point, just not this week, because this week we play Utah. Is it okay to talk about them now? Like it is game week. Do I have everyone's permission?
I'd rather focus on my team, Joe, if that's okay. Let me focus on my team.
And in that spirit, I'm not going to say a word about Kyle Whittingham because I've completely sworn off saying negative things about my opponents. So,
But if I were to say no,
completely normal, well-adjusted person to respond that way. I'm a little concerned with how many people read that tweet and thought I was being sincere. That tweet has like 400 likes on it, and pretty much all of them are Utah fans saying that, yeah, this is BYU fans are going to be mad at this, but this is totally something a well-adjusted person would say. And Utah fans like unironically thought I was like supporting them. And I'm just like, nah, dude, I'm making fun of you.
I for so many reasons, but I want this game so bad for these boys because this just feels like for the last 2 seasons there's been steps. There's been steps to the process of BYU becoming not only a successful like P4 program, but like a potential college football playoff contender that they've just kind of been checking off the board. Like they finally shook off the Vampire Cougs curse and they beat a team in Texas and then they go across 2 time zones and smoke an East Coast team. And this just feels like last year they beat their rival at home, but this year it feels like it's an extra step where yes, we get them at home, but this is a significant upgrade from what Utah was last season. They're healthier. The offense looks a lot smoother. But I just feel like BYU and by extension, like the fans, like LES, like is up for the task. And it's for all the reasons that we talked about earlier, where BYU is just equipped to win. Like they're not equipped to gain 670 yards and light up the scoreboard and score, 50 plus points on any given night. But they're equipped to win on so many levels, like the game plan, the culture, like the coaching staff, like the belief that they've created all along the way. Like trust, like if you I keep referencing the cut, but if you listen to Kalani, like he incorporates the gospel in everything, and he incorporates love and trust and faith in everything, and you just see it in everything. There's trust in the game plan. There's trust that the guy next to you is gonna take care of business. There's trust that regardless of how much they use the word adversity all the time, like regardless of how much adversity you deal with, you can bounce back, which is literally the gospel of Jesus Christ. And like in life, if you follow that, you're equipped to win. regardless of how bad things get. And so for me, the gospel hasn't failed me yet. And I don't know if the football team,
Hallelujah.
like, it's just they're equipped to win. And until they don't, who's to stop them?
Look, I've been a little bit annoyed this week with some of the discourse because BYU, like the attitude amongst Utah fans, like taking a very brief poll of my coworkers and people that I know of like, what's your confidence level coming into this game? I think most BYU fans would say about a 5. Like, we think this is like a 50-50 toss up. Utah fans think this is like a 7 or an 8 lock that they're going to roll in this game. Mostly because they're, again, scoreboard watching, real thing. If you just looked at the scoreboards of these two teams, you would think Utah is by far the superior team.
I will say, I must interject. To some of Ute fans' credits, they are watching some of our game during their game on their phones. So maybe some of them, maybe some of them have
front row too, man.
some ball knowledge.
You paid a lot of money for those tickets. So the thing with Utah is BYU. This is the closest that BYU and Utah have ever been. Utah got a really big boost in their metrics last weekend because they beat Arizona State by 30 without Sam Levitt. The metrics don't know that Sam Levitt didn't play in that game. People like to point out that Utah has played a significantly stronger strength of schedule. Not true. BYU strength of schedule is 86th in FPI, and Utah's is 72nd. And they'll say, well, who is BYU played that's as good as Texas Tech? And I say nobody, but we also haven't lost to any of those teams by 24 points. So, like, the idea that Utah has done what they've done against significantly tougher competition just isn't true. Like, if you look at the resume metrics, which is takes into account your strength of schedule, how do you perform against that schedule? BYU has the 9th strength of record. Utah is 24th. So both teams are great. Both teams are worthy of being ranked. Utah is vastly overselling how much more difficult their schedule has been and how well they've performed against it relative to BYU. In terms of a bunch of these efficiency stats, like we look at EPA per play, which is expected points added. It's just a fancy way of saying with each play, by how much do you improve your chances to score on each play? Utah is 19th in EPA per play on offense, 29th in EPA per play on defense. BYU is 19th in EPA on defense and 31st in EPA on offense. Kind of crazy how that works out. In terms of efficiency, FPI, they have an identical efficiency. Utah is ranked 8th in the country in opponent adjusted efficiency. BYU is 9th. So the strength of these two teams, like, they're the same. And you would expect them to be the same because we have a defensive staff that came from Utah and they have an offensive staff that came from BYU. It's what
funny.
Makes the Holy War so hilarious to me is that these fans are literally want to kill each other online while the players that they're cheering for are playing basketball as they speak. Like, it's like,
yeah, they're in Call of Duty lobbies together, just having a good time.
Whittingham and Kalani have dinner together, and it drives me insane. But it's just with the incestuous nature of this rivalry, at some point these two teams were going to be close. It should terrify Utah fans that it closed this quickly. So even if Utah does find a way to win in Lavelle Edwards Stadium, which they could, to me, this is a 50-50 proposition. You better pray that BYU's recruits don't work out because they're coming. Like, this is before BYU gets the talent in the building that BYU is doing this.
Yeah, this will be a measuring stick for not only this season, but I think just where
It's
the go ahead.
no, it's an important game because anyone can win 2 in a row, but 3 becomes a trend. Winning that third game, starting a streak of your own, it solidifies that, hey, this isn't a fluke anymore. Like you could chalk up 2021 to Cam Rising. You could chalk up 2022 to the Cam Rising, ironically. Um, you can do that if you want. If BYU beats this Utah team that according to them, like in the predictive metrics, Utah is like the 14th best team in the country. Like this is a really, really good Utah football team. There are no excuses if Utah loses this. And if BYU loses, well, I have tons of excuses because you gave them all to me last year and they all apply to BYU this year. So
I
um, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think this needs to be said, but I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is to feel like I, in combination with the other 64,999 people that'll be there, give or take, have some sort of effect on this game. And I think Jerem Jordan talks about like moments. It's one of the things that I love that he brings up on BYU Sports Nation. Like what BYU wins certain games, and they seize the moment. Like this is, we want to talk. Like I talked at length a little bit about the family aspect of BYU football and like that football team. There are people coming into like our house, right, and are trying to end something, like end a streak of 2 games, snap an undefeated season, like all these different things. And like every BYU fan in that building has a say in some of that. There's no way that we could get the word out, but I am so sick and tired of like I love my family, but I am so sick and tired of hearing about how incomparable every other game is to what the crowd did against Miami back in the 90s. Like I hear about it all the time. Like, wow, this crowd was amazing, but it wasn't quite Miami. Wasn't quite Miami. Wasn't quite Miami. Can it be? Can this week be better than Miami? Can it
Dude,
just be just absolute like heck on earth, or he double hockey sticks on earth to quote Bear Bachmeyer? Like I like standing room only, like just loud every down. Like it's a moment. There is a moment coming on Saturday.
it kind of like, again, like it's that same thing that we just talked about with Arizona, where it's just, I can't quantify it. Just not this week. They're going to lose at some point. Not this week. It's and let me try and quantify it. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons, give you guys all a preview of the written word this week. I'm going to give you guys 5 reasons why BYU is going to beat Utah on Saturday. Reason number 1, Utah since 2021 is 13-13 in true road games. They are, I believe, 2-6 in games that feature a sold out house on the road.
Wow.
This is not a Utah team that has historically traveled well. Over the last year or so, they haven't really played that well at home either. But for whatever reason, winning on the road in college football is hard, which is why, again, I find it so silly that people keep bringing up, oh, you skirted by Arizona and Colorado, as if winning on the road in the Big 12 isn't hard. This one's at home. So those don't apply. Reason number 2, BYU has the athletes in the secondary that will allow BYU to load the box against Utah's rushing attack. I think Utah has the clear advantage along the line of scrimmage. Like I haven't seen it from BYU's defensive line yet for me to think that they're going to be better than Utah's offensive line in the run game. They're going to need some help. Fortunately, BYU has 3 linebackers that are going to play in the NFL someday. They also have Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander, who I 100% feel confident can match up with Utah's wide receivers one-on-one. This is not a Utah wide receiver room that's built to beat man coverage. Falatau, like, and they might say, well, who's going to cover Dallin Bentley, Utah's all-world tight end? Falatau Satuala is also 6'4", and he can run like a deer and can play at all 3 levels of the defense. The idea that BYU somehow doesn't have the athletes to compete with Utah is just a lie, especially on defense. If you looked at within the Big 12, the top 20 players at each position. So of the top 20 cornerbacks in the Big 12, how many of them are BYU players? BYU has 8 starters that are in the top 20 at their position in the Big 12. John Tamoy-Peau is like 6th among defensive tackles. Bodie Schoonover is 15th among defensive ends. Siala Sarah is 6th among linebackers. Isaiah Glasker is 7th. Jack Kelly is 15th. Evan Johnson is 2nd among cornerbacks. Trey Alexander is 20th among cornerbacks. And Falatau Satuala is, I think, 19th among safeties. Utah has 4 on their defense. There are 4 starters on Utah's defense that grade in the top 20 at their position. BYU's got the athletes in this game. Number 3, BYU can win on first down. Utah's the number 1 team in the country this year on third down, and it's because they're so good on first and second down. BYU is top 10 in the country in EPA per play on first down, or on first and second down this year. So I think BYU can limit that. BYU is more explosive with a similar success rate. BYU is 27th and 26th in success rate on offense and defense. Utah ranks 132nd in the country in explosive play rate, meaning Utah is very successful, but their successful plays are like 5 yards, where BYU's are like 10 yards. The Holy War is always going to be decided by explosive plays. There's always going to be turnovers. There's always going to be big plays down the field. If any team is going to make those plays, it's going to be BYU, because Utah just hasn't demonstrated that they can do that this year on offense or defense. And lastly, BYU is going to be able to run the football. In their last 4 games, excluding sacks, Utah is giving up 200 rush yards per game on 5.2 yards per carry. They're now facing a top 15 rush offense and LJ Martin, who's 6th in the country. Good luck.
If you look back at the winner of the Holy War the last 10 years, with maybe the exception of like one outlier game, the best rushing team won that game.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Utah can run the football. Like, I think they're going to be able to run the football. It's, can BYU get them in disadvantageous positions on third down that force Devin Dampier to play quarterback? Because he's not a good quarterback. Like, Utah fans can talk all they want about him, the thrower. Devin Dampier is going to throw 2 passes this weekend off his back foot that are going to have an opportunity to be picked off by BYU. Like, he's not a good thrower of the football. He's going to go pro in something other than sports, but he's a great runner. And so if you can force Utah to get into third and long situations, which is a much, much easier said than done, BYU is going to have every opportunity to win this football game, because Utah is really going to struggle to run the football if they keep getting in third and long.
Oh, I just needed to be Saturday, man.
Sorry if that was boring. That was therapeutic for me. I needed tangible reasons for it. But again, the most important reason is not this Saturday.
You play them 10 times, they might win 9.
I don't even think they might
but
win
not
5.
this game.
Again, these teams, man, stylistically, Utah plays a style of football that allows them to blow teams out because they just run more plays. So, like, I'm not going to say that a blowout isn't completely off the table in this. That's not very hype train like of me. But if I had to put money on it, all the metrics say that this is a 2.5 point game or less. And if that's the case, BYU is winning that football game because BYU has already shown that they can do it, especially at home.
Just gotta believe Cougar Nation.
So, hot takes and predictions. My hot take is BYU will run for 200 plus yards in this game. Because of that, I think possessions are going to be at a premium. This is going to be one of those games where we're going to look up and be like, holy crap, how is already halftime? Because both teams really just want to run the ball 40 to 50 times. And because of that, possessions are just going to be low. And because of that, I'm going to say BYU wins 24-21.
I like it. I for his sake, but also because I just think it's time. Keanu Tanavasa combined between tackles for loss and sacks, he will have 4 or more.
Dude, I would love that so much. He needs it.
I
He's having a tough go.
I just feel like if there was a game for him to play inspired, like this is it. As far as the score goes,
they're gonna try and hurt him, man.
Oh, that would just be too bad. I'm gonna say 17-21 BYU.
Love it. Can't come soon enough, man. Which, by the way, we got ahead of ourselves. We are sponsored by Wilner O'Reilly Immigration Law.
Nice.
When it comes to immigration, you want lawyers you can trust. Wilner O'Reilly brings 26 years of experience, including a former immigration officer on the team. They represent actors, professional athletes, Fortune 500 companies, and families, ensuring everyone has access to top-tier legal support. They speak 10 languages, including Spanish, and despite what you see on TV or social media, they're achieving great results every single day. As a listener of the Hype Train podcast, your consultation is completely free. Please visit WilnerO'Reilly.com and mention the Hype Train to get started. Wilner O'Reilly, your trusted immigration attorneys. And you know who else I trust?
The Cougs, man.
Always, always the Cougs.
Cougs by a billion.
Maybe more.